Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are around this beautiful planet of ours. Today's video is a big one on the back of all of the drama that's gone on in the cryptocurrency space. Today's video may hurt for some viewers, but I want to do my best to explain what it is that we need to look out for during the cryptocurrency bear market, the real deep, dark times for cryptocurrencies. Now, I want to split those up early on in the video between Bitcoin and altcoins, which is what I'm referring to as cryptos, because this can get very, very dark for most cryptocurrencies. Now, we have covered certain things like this on the channel before, so I hope that you are subscribing to the channel, bell notification icon, hit like so that you can follow more of this content to keep you safe in the markets and stop falling for the same tricks that are going on out there time and time again. There is a lot still to come in this bear market, so hopefully this can help you stay safe and pick better winners for the future markets. Now, if you are a regular viewer of the channel, you know my game is about patience and looking for strong versus weak cryptocurrencies. We're not here to try and make 100x, 200x, 50x off these altcoins. I prefer to take a more conservative approach and make a lot of small gains, not sort of one big hit and swing and hope for the best, because at the end of the day, we all have a limited amount of money. We can't be throwing a ton of money at 100 different altcoins. Even a small amount at different altcoins, like $100, may not do anything in the future. So I want to make sure that I'm making gains in this upcoming market and, of course, protecting myself during the bear market is what we're focused on a lot on the channel here, and also with our members. All right, so if you haven't seen the last couple of videos on the channel, as I said earlier, just make sure you are subscribed to the channel. This particular one here, looking at dollar cost averaging into cryptocurrencies, was quite timely because it was before this huge dump off with FTX and all that sort of stuff that was going on at the time. And of course, we talked about it previously. But essentially, the dollar cost averaging thing, I think, and what I've seen from the data on the charts, is a huge lie. It's essentially out there for influencers, marketers, digital marketers, people online to just say everything's all right, buy in on the dips. And it's not really factoring in anything else to the equation, because that's what a lot of people come to the market to want to hear, unfortunately. So essentially, they're just repurposing the old saying, and then delivering it out to the audience because that's what they want to hear. And this was very, very prevalent within the bull market. So let's go on with a few hopium quotes. To begin, Warren Buffett's rule is number one, never lose money. Rule number two is never forget rule number one. And this is what I refer a lot to when it comes to my trading. Even if I get out way too early and way too early from the top, and buy in too late from the bottom with what a lot of people are used to or want to see, getting that exact bottom, I don't care, because I always go back to this. I try and get rid of the emotion and the ego. My rule number one is to never lose money, and rule number two is to never forget rule number one. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be 100% correct, but I want to protect my capital because this is my full-time gig. I'm actually doing this, and my full-time gig is not just being online talking about stuff. My full-time gig is protecting my capital, as you'll see with my retirement funds as well on the channel. I thought these next few quotes are really helpful because of the timeliness of the market looking at these particular lows. And it can almost feel like it's a great time to be getting into cryptocurrencies because things are so low. But of course, we'll go back to rule number one from Buffett saying, rule number one, never lose money. Rule number two, never lose money. And this is from Sir John Templeton. Bull markets are born on pessimism, they grow on skepticism, mature on optimism, and die on euphoria. And we've seen exactly that. And so if we look to the flip side of this, the last leg of the bull market always ends in hysteria, which is what we saw in November of 2021. And the last leg of a bear market always ends in a panic, which is basically what we've been seeing for the last several months. And these lows can take some time to form. It's exactly what we've been talking about for many months now, looking at the June low for Bitcoin. Now we have a November low, one at 17.5, one now at 15.5. And for the stock market, the current low is at October, and the prices have essentially been range bound since June for the S&P 500 between 3,500 points and about 4,200 points. It's been range bound even though the panic has been extreme. So never forget that. Always look at a chart because the pricing is going to give you the answers, not the feeling. The feeling is what the news wants you to receive so they can keep getting clicks. Now, I'm almost done with the quotes here, but the next thing, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. So yes, we need to be patient, but how patient can we be? There's so many things that are sort of double meanings here and can get confusing because you're like, well, I'm being patient with my cryptocurrencies. I'm buying, I'm DCAing, everything should be right for me. But the flip side is you need to look for strong versus weak stuff, which leads me to my final quote. And that is, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. This is perfect for altcoins because the majority of these now we are with the tide out. The majority of altcoins, the tide is out. We haven't got the confirmation of strength in cryptocurrencies. Remember, I call those altcoins, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin in its own separate pool here. But the tide is out on a lot of the altcoins, and we can see who's swimming naked, who's been swimming with who. It's a little FTX dig there. But basically, when the tide is out, you can see who's strong and who is weak. So I guess that's what they're referring to here when it's the naked. So who has got the goods and who doesn't have the goods? Who got the pants on and who doesn't? Going over to the fear and greed, we've dropped down. This is just a quick look at the fear and greed here because we'll need this later on. We're at 22. So the fear is higher, or is less than, so the number is higher, but the fear is actually less than what it was during May, June, July, where we had that big, significant low in Bitcoin and, of course, the stock markets as well. But this is referring to crypto. It's the crypto index. So we haven't gone down as far as what it was previously, yet the price is lower. So there is a strong divergence happening here. And like we've talked about, this can take many, many months, which is exactly what is happening. And we go back to the quotes, looking at the patient to the impatient. But of course, we need to focus on who is naked and who's not. So that leads me over to what this video is about. Crypto collapse, altcoins at risk of never coming back. What are the altcoins that we need to be aware of? Which ones are naked and who's not naked? So what I want to look at is we've got to have a look at which ones are going to make a comeback against the US dollar, which ones are going to make a comeback against Bitcoin, which ones are going to make a comeback against Ethereum, because we basically have three strong assets now. Obviously, US dollar is leading the charge here with the markets being down. That was the best thing to invest in, or basically to store your money for the last 12 months. It has been the US dollar, hands down. So are these altcoins going to make a comeback against Bitcoin and ETH too? Because they probably will make a comeback against USD, but if they're not making a comeback against Bitcoin and Ethereum, then you're basically taking a huge risk on a particular shitcoin, which I'll refer to. I know that triggers people. Just get over it. We can't marry these things. They are just digital crap online, which the billionaires have just used to circulate and pump up their own balance sheets. Never forget, pretty much they all do it, to then go and make it a big Ponzi scheme out there. Okay, so which one is stronger? They can't really control Bitcoin and Ethereum at the moment, and I hope they don't in the future. So that's why we're looking at these altcoins and looking at the strength of them against the USD, BTC, and ETH. And this will take a lot of time, but we've got to go back to those rules about being patient, and then also looking at this first one here. Rule number one is not to lose money. Okay, so with all that in mind, that's how we're going to assess the markets moving forward, the altcoins. We've got some specific rules that we look at. And the reason why I bring up all those other quotes is because that's essentially the market psychology around how this works. Bitcoin down at 16,200 with the futures market at 15,600, nearly 700. Market is now opened again. And looking at the low of this range, so these little yellow rectangles are the cycle buy zone. So this is something that I've had on the channel for quite some time, just looking at a particular area that could be a good zone for DCAing into Bitcoin. Now, this is not referring to crypto because I've not tested it on cryptocurrencies, altcoins, because they don't have history like Bitcoin does. Bitcoin's got now 12 or so years history there. So Bitcoin is currently down 77% from the top, and to the bottom of this range is about 83 to 84%, which is essentially what it did in the last cycle, and the previous cycle did about 86%, and the one before that, which is not on this particular chart here on the Bitstamp, but it did about 94%. So it's getting within that zone of a potential low, which is why this box tends to work out in these cycles. Eventually, it won't work because the markets will hopefully be so high that we don't get these huge significant drops. But until then, this is still a good dollar cost averaging area, well within this zone. And like we've seen before, it does take many months. So That's an update for Bitcoin. This is what a chart looks like of an altcoin that does not make it. Remember, that's what we're looking for here. Altcoins at risk of never coming back. USD, Bitcoin, ETH, they're the different comebacks that we're looking for. And this confuses people, especially when they are trying to buy something up and then hopefully hold it for a bull market, because you want to make the biggest gains you can, but you don't want to take that risk of only making a small gain. I mean, a 10x is still pretty good if you bought the exact low and sold the top, which is what we can see here on ICX. But when you got stuff doing 20, 50, 100x, you have a much better opportunity to get more, but also actually take a 10x out of a crypto that might do a 50x. Because when this thing's only doing a 10x, it's not like you're going to get the whole thing. Maybe you only get the breakout until the next level, the breakdown, something like these previous tops. So about a 200% gain from that top, from the entry point, because we're looking here to protect our capital and be conservative on the entry. So there's really only a 200% from the breakout of the top to getting as close as we can to that next top when we see the lower swing top come in. And, it's probably going to be a little bit less than that. So there's really not a lot of meat in that particular trade. And what we look for is just taking the middle of the altcoin, the profits of that altcoin out. We're not trying to buy that low or sell that top. And so if there's not as much opportunity in that midsection, then we might as well move on to something else. So this is a crypto from the previous cycle. This essentially happened to 99% of the altcoins out there. They all had a pump up in that first altcoin season of 2021. They all attempted to do it again at the end of 2021 like the other altcoins, whereas for the new altcoins, they went on big runs again. Think of things like Sand and some of these other metaverse tokens, which is a possibility of those not doing it this time. So here's the first piece that we're looking at here. If we throw in a log, we can see a little bit cleaner. Now, we do get some breakouts of these swings. So what we're looking at first is the monthly swing here. It broke out of those, but it was a very, very weak move because it broke out quite late from a lot of these resistance levels. So if I throw it into ICX BTC, because we want to see if it's going to make it against BTC, in those same periods, here's the 2021 run. Here is the second of the 2021 runs, and it basically hit major, major resistance on the breakdown. So we're looking at support and resistance as well on the Bitcoin chart as this market moves up. But before we're able to get to that support and resistance level, like this is giving you a signal that is going to break down after the fact. But here is prior to the fact. So we've got the November into the January bottom on BTC. November, December, January. That was the bottom for Bitcoin. Had a small bounce and then it failed from that point. It broke down against its Bitcoin value while Bitcoin was regaining strength and going on its own mini bull run in this period right back here. So that is a first real warning sign of one of your altcoins not coming back, not going to make it this time around. I had to show you these particular moves here because it can fool a lot of investors once they're already holding these things because they're thinking that their altcoin is going up, like they're the gains that they're making there. But in actual fact, they're not really making anything because Bitcoin is also going up in those particular periods. And it showed you weakness earlier on that it broke down against its Bitcoin value early in the piece. And that is potentially what we're leading to for a lot of these other altcoins. So that's the first thing that was with the BTC chart. Now, if we have a look at it against ETH, this is the old cryptocurrency here, Icon, so ICX. This was the Ethereum of South Korea. This was what it was called back in 2017. It broke down from its lows at that same time. It went on a small run, got rejected, no closes, no monthly closes above the breakdown level ever after that point. And that's just a clear downtrend. If you throw it off log, that is just an absolute dead coin at this point. Maybe in years to come, it can make a comeback, but you don't want to be wasting your opportunities holding this thing in the hopes that it does come back. And they're clear signs that you're getting rejections early on in the piece. This is January into 2020 before the bull market. Then you have another test, August 2020, final test here in March, and then it just gets absolutely weak from that point as well. So there's plenty of opportunities to get out earlier on based on this particular breakdown, based on it getting rejected at significant previous support, which now becomes resistance, and then the breakdown. So this is just a nice, easy example to have a look at. FTX, probably one of those cryptos that doesn't make it now. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I think you guys get the point of what's happened to FTT after the breakdown, never made it back above the support zone after holding out, and then never getting above the monthly swing tops either. So personally, I want to save my money looking at Warren Buffett's rules here and just not get into something and hope and pray for 100x just because it is down so much. FTT against its BTC value has now broken to new all-time lows based on the chart here on Binance. And I mean, that is going to be a long way to come back from. Differences here with long-term swing trading and short-term swing trading. Short-term stuff, 4 hourly, daily, there's going to be some great trading opportunities because of the volatility of and how low this price is. But we're looking at longer term stuff here for the next altcoin season and not losing our money in DCAing into these cryptocurrencies because we're looking at altcoins at risk of never coming back, not never being able to be traded again in short term, but never coming back in the long term. And this is what we're specifically looking at: come back against USD, come back against Bitcoin, and a comeback against ETH. FTT, based on this alone, because it hasn't closed above these lower levels, probably never coming back to those older high levels that it once had in the bull market. CRO, big one on the list as well. So this is CRO against its BTC value. It had a double top and it is now getting very close back to those lower prices. These are by no means in the same fundamental space where we've got one with FTT and the founders potentially going to jail and trying to escape the Bahamas into Dubai and whatnot. This is all the news going on. You got CRO, crypto.com, different space here. What we're doing is looking at the chart and what people are buying and selling. So if we go to crypto.com or CRO against its USD value, it's still above those previous lows of 2020, but it's getting very close. So we've got some pretty good signs here to take a look at moving forward into that next bull market. So just apply this to any other altcoin that has been through the 2021 bull market, and that should more than likely keep you safe. Basically, keep an alert on where those previous lows are, and if that market breaks down from the previous all-time low prices. This was the example in ICX that I used here. So you just look at where those lows were, and if it was breaking it down against its US dollar value here, so we got 15 cents, broke down past those, it just could not make it back again, even though it had a pretty good pump. It just never got, it broke down from those lows, so it broke the support. So crypto.com is getting close to that point, being at around 6 cents. The next low, major lows are around that 2 cents. So these ones are potentially not coming back to those previous higher prices to get those huge bounces, right? Trading, yes, it could still get a 10x from 2 cents to 20 cents, but is it going to get that 100x going from 1 cent to $1? That's what I don't see happening here, especially if it starts to break these significant lows against Ethereum values. That's the CRO. To Ethereum. Now, Ethereum was able to break past its previous monthly tops, and it took many, many, many months before it could go on the next move, but it made a new all-time high. So the strength was there for ETH as it started to break out into those new all-time highs. The other thing that happened for ETH BTC, or Ethereum against its Bitcoin value, is that it made a comeback above those previous support levels. So if you take a look at those support levels of 2017, 2018, and draw a line across, it was under them, so it broke down, but it quickly made, over the course of 12 months, broke above them again and used it as support. So that was showing some strength towards Ethereum, unlike what we saw for ICX, where it broke down and continued down. So this was showing some strength there. So that's the sort of signal that you want to see on your altcoins moving forward into this next cycle. Otherwise, you could be left with some sort of dead shitcoin that gives you a nice little good feeling inside during the bull market, 2020 into 2021, and then leaves you with a bitter taste in your mouth because it dumps a lot further than a lot of these other altcoins and doesn't give you those profits that you once hoped for from the previous cycle. Because remember, this was a massive pump in the previous cycle, 40 cents up to about $13. And I think it may have even come from slightly lower. But then after that, it was basically a dead coin. And this happened to a lot of altcoins during the previous cycle, and it will happen in the upcoming cycle. As a recap on this video, to keep you safe from altcoins that are at risk of never coming back, there's multiple things here. First, you got to look at its value on US dollar chart, on the USD chart against the altcoin against the US dollar value. All right, so that's the first thing, where those support levels come in, and if it is breaking down from those particular support levels during this cryptocurrency bear market. The next, do the same thing against that altcoin and the Bitcoin value. All right, so as we looked at that when it came to ICX, the breakdown never came back, and then it started to give you some signs that it was getting rejected at the previous support. Then do the exact same thing for the altcoin versus Ethereum. Go and look at that strength on Ethereum. Provided Ethereum continues to remain a strong cryptocurrency against Bitcoin, then it's going to be a major one to continue to watch with your altcoin versus Ethereum. Otherwise, you can just lean back in the next bull market, just hold your BTC and ETH and not worry about anything else. There's going to be a lot of bigger gains to be made on altcoins, 50s, 100x's, but it's going to take a lot more action in the market from yourself. So that comes down to, what do you want to be? Do you want to be an active trader that is looking at the markets every single hour of the day with all the stress that comes with it to make those 50s or 100x, 200x? Or do you want to have something that's maybe a little more safe, slightly lower returns, maybe a lot lower, but you're still going to make a return because it's a safer move? That's really going to be up to you guys. Bear markets tend to make Bitcoin maxis. If you still want to get into altcoins, this is how I would be looking at the market moving forward into 2023, 2024, whenever that next altcoin season happens to appear. Make sure you are subscribed, bell notification icon, and like the video up so you can stay tuned to what we are seeing here in the markets, in the traditional markets, and of course cryptocurrencies as well. Check out the links in the top of the video description for our free alpha report. That's the newsletter that is coming out in about a week's time with all of that other information on it. And also our members, you can find a link to that down below to become one of our trading and investing members down below. Thanks again, guys. Check out the videos that are popping up on your left-hand side for more trading and investing in cryptos and traditional markets. I'll see you at the next one. Have a great day. Until then, peace out.